In this video, we're going to look at how to use a graph on a calculator to check an irrational zero for a polynomial. So I've got a function already ready to go here, so let's type that in. I've got x cubed plus x squared minus 7x minus 7, and as always, make sure I'm using the subtraction button there and not the negative sign. So I always tell students, let's go ahead and start with a graph. Now I have other videos where I go over how to confirm that I have a zero there nicely at -1, and then I also have a video on how to approximate these two irrationals. But let's say I've already gotten those zeros algebraically. So for this one, the zeros are -1, but then we also have plus root 7 and minus root 7. And I would like to use the calculator to check those. Now again, the integers are easy to check, because if I just hit second table, again, anytime I'm looking for a zero, I look for where the y value is 0, and I can say that -1 is one of those. So that first one's pretty easy to check. But how do I check the others? Again, in one of my previous videos, I've done this in more detail, but let's hit second graph and find a 0. Oops, hit the wrong thing. It's 0. And let's do positive root 7. So I've got to hit my left bound. Let's pick 0, and let's go somewhere to the right of that. That should be far enough. And again, for guess, I don't have to move that cursor. So I am told from my calculator that I have approximately let's pick all those decimals, 6457513. Now, if I go into my main calculator mode and type in that number, so 2.6457513, if I try to turn that into a fraction, using that math arrow frac, my calculator won't do it. This isn't a fraction because it is an irrational number, and again, that arrow frac will not turn an irrational number into something other than a decimal. So I certainly can type in the square root of 7 and hit enter. Now I've got a few more decimals here, but otherwise those numbers do look pretty similar. So I'm already fairly confident that the square root of 7 is correct, but how can I also use the graph for that? Let's go ahead and go back to my graph then. I'm going to use the value. So I'm going to go to second trace, which is my calc menu. So second trace for the calc menu, and I'm going to put option 1 there for value. Now I can get integer values pretty easily from the table, but one of the nice things about this value is I can type in pretty much any x value I want. So I certainly could type in something simple, like say 0, and now I've got my y value. I could do it a second time and put in a fraction. So let's say I want to know when x is a third, and there's the y value. Now again, that is an approximation, but I am able to get a y value. But I can even type in an irrational number. So let's go to second calc and 0 a third time, and let's actually type in the square root of 7. And let's hit enter. Now you'll notice it is approximating the square root of 7, but the y value is 0. And it is exactly 0. So that is one way that if I know zeros, or say if I'm doing a multiple choice question and I'd like to test those zeros on the graph, I can type them in with that value, and if they give me a y value of 0, it is a 0. However, if I get some other value there, then that means that number is not a 0.